One of the weirdest, most inconsistent things about Fire Emblem Three Houses is Divine Pulse and how it works. While it's easy to just say that it's there to make the game more accessible and just be a quality of life update, I'm not actually talking about how the mechanic works, more how it's written into the game, which is badly. First of all, you probably all know this will contain a pretty big spoiler, so watch out for that. Actually, a couple. Now, I'd like to explain what Divine Pulse actually is really quick. Basically, in game, it's the ability to turn back time up to 13 times. You get to choose how far this can go. It can be one turn or all of the 99 turns the game gives you. This means that you can turn back time a total of 1,287 turns. This wildly contrasts how it works in the story. At the beginning of the game, Sothis explains her power isn't unlimited, which is true for both situations. But the limit is so insanely different that it feels like more of a half attempt to explain their decision to add the ability at all. I mentioned this in my review, but it feels like they built part of the story around the ability just to explain it, and not because it was a good idea. In this video, I'm going to go through some of the ways I think that they could have improved the story, or just made it make more sense and fill in a couple of plot holes. Here are several situations that the story and the gameplay didn't match up. The two biggest ones are before the time skip. In all but Crimson Flower, Byleth just falls off a cliff. Nothing special happens, you see it happen, and they are clearly conscious. Yet they don't use Divine Pulse. As far as the player is concerned, they don't even try, for basically no reason at all. The other big issue is Geralt's death. Though it does have the advantage of Sothis explaining that if turning back time didn't help, then it must be fate. This is the first way I'll explain how they could have fixed the writing. What Sothis is implying is a fixed point situation, where most of time is malleable, but some is, well, fixed. This also implies that either Sothis doesn't or doesn't currently have the power to change fate. She also might just not know how to, or hasn't tried, but that's a different video. For now, we can pretty easily use this fixed point idea to change how the game sets up Divine Pulse. As this is a story explanation, we would be changing the gameplay slightly. All you would have to do is add either a few characters who die and lock in Divine Pulse, or use Classic Mode where characters are meant to have permadeath, not allow Divine Pulse to go back beyond that. That would reinforce the idea of fixed points. It would also make the scene where Byleth repeatedly tries to save their father that much more sad, because in the back of their mind, they already know it won't work, yet they still try. The least intrusive way I think that they could have changed it is to make, instead of granting the ability to turn back time, Sothis granted the ability to see glimpses into the future. In the beginning of the game, Sothis shows the ability to stop, reverse, and likely could also slow or speed up time. Yet, despite this, she basically only knew how to stop time until Byleth suggested she try turning back time. It is not that far of a stretch to assume she can see glimpses of the future if she wanted to, and just doesn't know it. This can be used similarly to how Garnet from Steven Universe sees the future. Instead of one option, she sees basically every eventuality, and then can guide through that. That would perfectly replace Divine Pulse, and if it worked sparingly, it would also explain why some things would just come up on Byleth by surprise. Still, that would be more of a stretch than my next and favorite idea. This would be changing the nature of ability entirely. The first way to do this would be to, instead of explaining it as an ability gifted by God, make it so Byleth is just an amazing tactician and can see 3 to 13 steps ahead in any fight. This would basically solve every problem that is brought up by Divine Pulse. As while they might be a good strategist, or an amazing, or the best, there will still be things that surprise them, like their father's death or falling off the cliff. This is just me personally, but I always prefer stories where instead of the hero being paranormal and being amazing because of that, they are just the height of humanity, fighting against the forces that oppose them. Sothis doesn't even have to go anywhere. Just instead of making her ability turning back time, make it the activation of the Sublime Sword of the Creator. Or, if you want more, give the player the ability to use Sothis' shield. It could manifest behind them when they protect Edelgard, and instead of turning back time, maybe it stops it for a split second and gives them enough time to react to the act. That way, you have both the idea of a time deity and a reason for why they can't just fix every story problem. Anyway, that's all for now. I might just make some theory videos about this because it's kind of caught my interest recently, but I haven't decided. If you subscribe or join my Discord, that would be lovely. Anyway, thanks.